Hey, Honus Tribe. I'm getting better at this recording, going live. I wanted to touch on something though, and I wanted to talk about fear. And truth and nature. So there's this thing where people will tell you that there's nothing to fear because whatever will be, it'll be the truth, you know? So if it's the truth, why be afraid of it, right? And that's usually something that's said to people that don't know the truth. And it's interesting because the people that don't know the truth, they could that just kind of leaves them in limbo, you know? Like they're not, like, all the what ifs come up, you know? That second monkey mind starts spinning that too, like, oh, well, then, you know, nobody knows. Nobody knows, and then when you die, you just never come back, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, anyway. So, truth, lies, nature. All right, so nature is the only thing that can be discovered. It's the only thing that we're going to find. And it's really what value is going to be based off of. And so what's happening is our connection to that is being defined, and it's being suppressed by design through definition. And what ends up happening is the definition ends up becoming this middleman, this conduit to the connection of nature. And it's being digested and regurgitated through a paradigm that extracts the inherent connection. And it really didn't impact us the way that we are realizing now, because we were in a certain rhythm with nature. So this morning, see, like, people could say, like, yeah, like, you know, we used to eat seasonally, right? We used to, you know, have sagacity. We used to slow for pigeons so we didn't hit them driving on the street. I had to slow down right now and do not hit these birds. But so there was a certain sagacity that we had where once we started mass producing food, basically getting and creating more than we needed, right? That we started tapping into a good way to capitalize on abundance. And then what happened is we cut corners and we sacrificed our integrity for profit. And when that happened, we completely disconnected ourselves from this rhythm with nature, this dance, okay? So I was making some eggs this morning. And when I make eggs, I make like probably, I don't know, like, let's say 25, 30 eggs. I prep them to help my better half, you know? So I'm mixing this up, you know? And I'm thinking, like, man, how would I have managed and maintained this egg, you know, before refrigeration, before being able to buy a box of 50 eggs, 100 eggs, you know? Like, how did that impact my baking, you know? How did I preserve the egg so it didn't spoil in the time it takes me to eat X amount of, you know, bakery, whatever, you know, bread or whatnot? Like, how long, like, and really trying to dial into what that rhythm would look like, you know? I need to make sure that, you know, like, what's that schedule look like? And not having that rhythm, not having that sagacity, not having that, basically fumbling those dance steps, really is the source of what a lot of this fear is about. And it's coupled into the dependency that we have to keep the existing infrastructure moving, which is actually why people aren't really getting violent and flipping out right now. Everyone knows what's up. People handle fear differently. Okay, by everyone knows what's up, I mean it's blatantly obvious, regardless on what side of politics you agree with. Basically breaking it down to conservative and liberal, right? Regardless of what side of that duality that you're on, that we're on, everyone who is basically not a policy or power holder in that structure can agree that something doesn't look right and it's not looking good, right? And so the thing is that now this moving into the next thing, which is where I want to talk about the quote unquote ritual, right? How this works. Okay, so in nature, there is only nature, there is only truth, right? And then what happens is we start augmenting or interpreting nature. We start interpreting that truth, and we start expression, right? We start expressing something. And so like this is like artistic. This is basically where culture stems from, right? Is that interpretation and expression of nature, from nature through us, which is a part of nature, right? Okay, so then so we have where was I? Okay, so I was talking about the fear, I was talking about with nature, and I was talking about the eggs and the rhythm, not having that rhythm, not standing up. Something's laid on top of nature. Okay, so the truth, right? The truth of nature, what's being projected. Oh, the ritual. That's right, the ritual. Okay. So the only way for illusion to exist in reality is to be projected, right? And so this is the magic that's losing its power, the ability to project and define. The ability to project and define. So what's happening is that fear is being used to keep our attention on their constant projection, which is defining what is happening, which is defining nature. Okay, and so what's happening is there's this correlation that's happening right now. That's, I mean, you've heard it leading up from, the indigo children, that, this is auspicious and all this other stuff, right? There's basically like another crescendo point that we're reaching that even exceeds the speculation on 2012, right? So it's where Saturn and Jupiter basically come within, like, they come very close, right? As close as they probably can ever be in balance. And so this crescendo that's happening, we're leading up into that. And so what's happening is they're using fear to keep our attention on what they're defining it, so that it becomes our reality. And what they want to do is, see, this is the only way that the lie or the illusion can exist in truth is to be like a layer on top of it. And the only way that it can exist or work is by being existing, augmenting our paradigm to see through that layer, that lens. And so there's a cementing or a welding of that lens into our paradigm. And it's like, imagine if like you're at the doctor and they're fixing your glasses for you, and they're like, all right, don't move your eyes, man. Don't look away. Like, don't move right now. We're doing this MRI or we're doing this eye scan. Don't move, right? And so you're like paralyzed, right? In attention, in fear. And then they do whatever they do, and then they, boom, got it dialed in for you. And that's basically what this is about. Now, they know that that's not going to work, dude. They know that basically, if best, they can get X% of people to buy into it and use their fear as leverage against the people that aren't scared, right? And so now there's okay, so all right, so there's these what's it called, man? People are real into it. Hermetic. There's these hermetic principles, and one of them is about cause and effect, right? And so because this is perfect, right? Anytime a masculine and feminine energy get together, something is created, right? It's created on multiple different levels. Sometimes we could say it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, depending on your level of comprehension. And we'll just leave it at that, right? So, all right. So what's happening is that there's twofold, right? Everything is supposed to be discovered. And because see, the only thing that's happening right now is truth is becoming more and more, let's say truth is trending, right? What's actually going on is trending right now. And so, what's actually going on is trending. Another part I'm supposed to talk about before this. Okay, the communism part. All right, so what we're seeing as the solution for basically quote unquote white supremacy or the system or colonialism, right? All these PC terms for basically Abrahamic supremacy, Abrahamism, right? Okay, so remember when I was just mentioning right now, okay, as I was just mentioning right now, there's a celestial event that's coming to create a basic harmony, right? To basically say, hey, you know, there's a grading that's happening right now. And so the communism aspect is being applied to keep the existing currency structure in place, and it knows that it can't do that because of the emotion that's attached to it. So it wants to change its hat, so to speak, or really what it's doing is it's adapting. It's moving into the quote unquote etheric realm, and it's basically coming in as crypto, right? Or electric money, right? Electric currency, right? And so basically what's going to happen is that same Teslic energy is basically available. And so in order for them to capitalize on that technology through the whole spectrums that are present, is that they're basically throttling, they're model throttling, the same way that Apple does with technology. The same way all these corporations do with technology is they're throttling it so that they can capitalize and control it. So this is what like 5G is really about, you know? This is why the push for transhumanism, because they're trying to get ahead of the curve and define what the Kundalini energy is about, what the Siddhas are, what this, psychic and all this other stuff is. And one of the ways that they're also approaching this is they're trying to do the same thing through by defining our connection as immortals. And they're doing it through the concept of aliens and outer space. And so communism is being used as that way to basically cement in that molding and capitalization on the energy so that they can stay in power. They can actually stay relevant, right? And so earlier when I was talking about how the order with the hermetic stuff where cause and effect, so the only way that the lie or the illusion can exist with the level of clarity, of discernment, of truth that is out, of spirit that is out right now, is for them to consolidate and protect themselves from being attacked. And this is what the Iron Dome is about. This is what all of that is about. It's all about that. Like if you look at what happened in the Hellenistic era versus the Orthodox, you can see that it's very clear that the that's really the only way that the illusion or the lie behind the Abrahamisms can exist. And so how does this tie in with fear? I mean, this is where all the fear is like rooted in, so we're gonna come to a point where, see, like all of this. So back to the ritual. So there's energy that's being interjected into our consciousness, framed a certain way, and it's layered. And so there's certain things that are done to trigger those emotions that basically get us to participate or move in accordance with the rhythm of the ritual, right? And so I already said the fear is the attention, our participation. Okay, so there's going to come a time when all this energy that's being interjected is basically going to be built up, harvested, right? And then boom, react to it, right? It's like the friction that's happening. And then we're supposed to orgasm. We're supposed to react or emotionally spill, right? And so what we do actually, how we should handle this, in my opinion, is that we should receive it. We should receive it. And so what does that mean? All right. So when you look at martial arts, right, there's this principle in martial arts that largely got lost when the teachings were basically moving through from the east to the west. Let's summarize it like that. And there's this way of open-handedness, right? And what the open hand aspects of martial arts really represents is receiving and negating the energy. If you look historically, you'll see that masters would actually never attack or cripple. Like to kill somebody is basically to not have enough self-discipline and control to have practice to the level to where you would need to defend yourself by killing someone else. You should be able to receive them and negate whatever strike, attack, whatever energy that they're bringing to you. It's supposed to come in, once it comes into your sphere, once it comes into your cipher, you know, it gets received openly and grounded, basically, is what happens. You know, this is why, like, when you look at principles of like blocking or judo or certain types of martial arts, basically all of the real core martial arts will show you that it's about answering, receiving, negating, like grounded out. And I don't mean that, I mean, you could say, you know, the whole ground and pound thing, but really it's just to answer it. And basically once you answer it enough times, then they recognize that, oh, okay, you know, I'm here to learn. And so this ties into why when you look at like a history in martial arts, there's usually a rivalry between the master and the student. And that's because the master basically grounds the student, and then the student works on a contrast of that. And this is why they say the truest spiritual teaching will from a master will come in silence. It'll be silent. And that's because there's an emotional connection, there's a bond. But then what happens is, by them basically reframing and not answering and not responding, there's a contrast within that, a spectrum that the student can basically acknowledge and pull from and teach himself from that. And that's basically where the true, you know, levels of mastery and spiritual power, gifts, occult, esoteric, you know, the highest shaman, plant language, all of that comes in at. So, I mean, really, expression time. So anyway, just wanted to tap in, tribe, and share some thoughts that I had. Appreciate you all. Wholeness, and balanced vibrations.